My name is Samuel Clonts. Today we are here at my restaurant, 63 Clinton. So I started cooking pretty young. I grew up in the kitchen with my mom cooking a lot, so I was always surrounded by food and family and cooking and family coming together around food, which I think kind of influenced me a lot throughout my career. The older I got, the more I realized that that's what I was trying to get back to, of that sense of family and community and bringing people together. So that's kind of how I got my start. I got a job as a dishwasher when I was 15 and pretty much fell in love with restaurants right away. Started working full-time as a cook all the way through high school. When I was 18, I moved to New York. I kind of wanted to just be surrounded by the best food in the world that I could find. So that meant New York City to me. I moved here, went to culinary school, and then I did my externship at Chef's Table, Brooklyn Fare, which was a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant, but a very small kitchen. So it was basically the chef and maybe 2 or 3 cooks. So I got exposed to a lot there. I spent about 5.5 years working there, kind of working side by side with Chef Cesar there, and just kind of really getting to see everything that I could there. After that, I left and I became the chef of a small Japanese restaurant called Uchu, which served a tasting menu that was inspired by Japanese kaiseki cuisine. We opened in 2017. I was 25 at the time, and we got our first Michelin star there. Continued working there for a few years. That ended up closing, and then after a pandemic, me and my business partner, we were ready to start our own project. After working in the industry for so long, we kind of realized that it was time for us to do our own thing and be able to be in control of everything that we wanted to create within a restaurant. So the food here at 63 Clinton, we serve a 7-course tasting menu, seasonally inspired. And we try to draw a lot of inspiration, whether it's from my own career and my background or things I've seen and experienced through travels and eating, but also I try to use all my sous chefs and cooks as well to kind of bring their backgrounds. We were doing a pork dish right now inspired by Korean bossam, which is usually served with oysters and blanched cabbage. So we do a version of that with a mussel puree, a grilled cabbage salad, and a Berkshire pork short rib. So it's using these kind of classic flavors a lot of times to create the menu here. But that's also driven just by seasonality. As new produce comes in and out of season, we're always looking at changing the menu. We're always working on some new course, so the menu kind of evolves and changes organically. But I'd say throughout the year, we probably do at least 2 full menus for each season. So wine has always been a very important thing for me in the restaurant. I was lucky enough to be exposed to some very quality wines at a young age. Relatively, we're just working in nicer restaurants, and just really quickly developed a love for the passion and the art that goes behind so many great wines, in the same way that food is represents all these craftsmen and art that create these things. So being exposed to great grower champagnes and beautiful burgundies, we saw what a great match it could be for food, and how one can actually help elevate the other. They can both be great on their own, but together they can create this third experience, kind of marrying them. So the wine list here has always been pretty old world forward. Champagne, I would say, makes up about half of the list. We're pretty passionate about our love of champagne. I'd say Burgundy is our close second for us. Italian wines, Spanish wines as well. I think the food, we always try to make sure that nothing will ever overpower any wine. Try to stay away from anything necessarily too spicy or just flavors that wouldn't lend themselves to going well with wine. One example could be, so right now on the menu we're doing sort of a Spanish style rice. Rice cooked down in sofrito with some cuttlefish a squid ink aioli, some Spanish chorizo as well. So it's a very Spanish-style rice and seafood dish, but we pair that with an oxidated wine from the Jura. Kind of, pairing, obviously, white wine, seafood goes very classically together, but kind of using that Jura wine to mimic some of the notes that like a Spanish style or a sherry might have, and just using, wines like that to kind of highlight similar flavors, but maybe in a unexpected way. So another dish that has always been on the menu here since we opened, I actually started serving at the last restaurant I was at, Uchu. It became a signature dish there, and when we opened, it had such positive reaction, we knew we had to bring it and make it a part of this restaurant as well, is our caviar hand roll. So it is a Japanese-style hand roll. So nori is filled with sushi rice. This grain is called suya hime, which means shining princess, coming from Yamagata, Japan. It gets mixed with a Korean black vinegar that's also mixed with mirin. So the roll gets rolled with the sushi rice, some fresh grated wasabi, and a golden osetra sturgeon caviar that's coming from Shanghai. We serve the hand roll with about 35 grams or around an ounce of caviar. And for me, this really highlights caviar because of the way you get to really appreciate the flavors and the textures of the roe. You have something going on with the texture of the rice, which this great quality rice, you can feel every single grain as you eat it. And then the caviar is kind of melting along with this rice. It was quite a surreal experience. It wasn't something that we were necessarily even thinking about at the time. We still felt like we were brand new. We were just trying to figure out how to get the restaurant, keep it running every day, while making sure that the food was as best as we could. I felt, looking back, I was definitely very young and probably, I would say now, unqualified at the time for that role. It was my first time being the actual chef of the restaurant, not working under someone else. So it was a lot of quick learning on the job of how to do all these other things that I'd never really been in charge of before. And then getting that Michelin star, huge, obviously a huge surprise, and so much excitement that came with it. But it also put a pretty big spotlight on the restaurant very early, which has plenty of pros and cons. Obviously the pros heavily outweigh them. Just kind of get that national or even really international attention. Then we started seeing guests come in from all over the world and not just, from New York. We've been open 4 years here. It took us a while to kind of figure out what we were doing, just as first-time owners and operators. But after a few years, as we kind of got settled in, we started building a team around us to look at what was next for us. Because as much as we love and, we really felt like we did something unique here. We felt like we had the team behind us to keep that going. And for me, it's always been not a downside here, but there's not much, with one restaurant, there's not much room for people to grow. You start with a young cook and you train them, maybe they'll learn all the stations and they'll become a sous chef. But then that's kind of the cap for people. So for us, we wanted to open up another restaurant. And we wanted to think about what made sense for us. We already have a tasting menu spot. We wanted to keep something in the neighborhood as well. So that tasting menu didn't make sense for our second spot. We wanted to make sure we offered something different than what we have here. So we started leaning towards more of a wine-focused, not quite wine bar, because it's a little bit more food involved. There is a full a la carte menu. So about 2 months ago, finally, we opened Cactus Wren. The name comes from the state bird of Arizona, where Raymond and I are both from. So kind of a nod just to our upbringing back in the Southwest. The second restaurant definitely felt easier to get open, just because we had much more team and people with us that kind of helps lighten the load.